Greetings, my beautiful lovelies. It's Emmy. How are you? It's great to see you and welcome back to my kitchen. Today I'm going to be making what I'm going to categorize as a hard times recipe because it is for a burger that uses a lot of cream and milk. It doesn't really have a name. I've seen it called the heavy cream burger. I saw this about a year ago on Facebook, but it's reappeared or just appeared on the TikToks under the account Flomo Crafts. And it is for a burger that is extended with cream and milk. When I say extend, I mean adding additional fillers to the meat to increase the amount of product. So other examples of extending ground beef in particular would be the slug burger, which comes from Mississippi. Tons of people love it. I'll put a link down below in case you missed that hard times video. It doesn't contain slugs, but it is extended. Another example would be scrapple, which is extended sometimes with oats or some kind of grain, and then that is formed into a loaf and sliced very thinly and fried up. Again, the idea is to stretch the protein out to feed more mouths. So with food prices being what they are, I don't think it's a bad idea to look at these old recipes for inspiration and methods and ways to extend your money. So this recipe appears on the TikToks under the account Flomo Crafts, but when I searched for it on Facebook, where I originally saw it, it's under the account Super Recipes, which I found a little bit strange that there's not a consistent account. Same exact video, same voiceover, same everything, same amounts. And I think this might be one of these kind of factory mill things where they make lots of content and then they produce it and place it on all different platforms under different names. I'm not really sure. At any rate, this looks so strange because this recipe is intriguing because you add so much dairy to the beef, yet it fries up into something that looks like a hamburger patty. So like always, I'm here to make the recipe, to see if the recipe works, and number one, most importantly, to see how it tastes. So let's go ahead and get started. In a bowl, we're going to add 250 grams or about a half pound of ground beef. Bloop. I'm going to give it a preliminary kind of breakup here because we're going to be adding liquids to it, and it's going to be easier if we break this up just a bit. So I will do the math to see how much savings actually happens by doing this. This package of meat was about $8, so this is about $4 worth of ground beef. Typically for a pound of beef, you would get 4 quarter-pound burgers. So with this, we'll see how many we get out of this. Is just a half pound of beef. So to that, we're going to add what they call heavy cream. But in the video, it is very, very thick. It looks like sour cream. So that's what I'm going to add. I took some sour cream and I thinned it down a little bit with milk. So we still have the richness of the cream because sour cream is made with cream, but we have that thicker consistency. The heavy cream that you get here in the US is pretty liquid. It's very pourable and the fat is homogenized, but it's not so thick like a yogurt, and that's what is shown in the video. So I'm going to use heavy cream. So in goes the sour cream. And I'm going to give this a preliminary mix because, again, it's going to be tricky to get all this beef worked into the liquids. It gets more interesting as we go along. We're going to add 1 cup of whole milk. I'm going to add that a little at a time to help get it incorporated. Now, adding cream to burgers, when I was researching this recipe, isn't that unusual. I guess James Beard really liked adding cream to his burgers because he felt that it made them extra juicy and rich, but he only added a couple tablespoons, not an entire cup of cream and a cup of milk. See how loose this is? That's what I found so strange about this recipe. Like, how is it going to keep its shape when we are frying the burgers? That was just a half cup, so now we're going to add the rest of the milk. I mean, this is like a soup. Look how runny it is. Look at that. That's supposed to make a burger patty. Huh. 1 teaspoon of kosher salt, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of oregano, and a bunch of black pepper. Whisk that in. It's sort of like a meatball seasoning. Not what I think of when I think of an American style burger, which I usually just season with salt and pepper. Of course, we put condiments and toppings on the burger itself, but this is already a little bit different. So next we're gonna add an egg. See, again, it's becoming more like a meatball. And some flour. I think this is a pretty key ingredient, baking powder. And whisk that all together. And the flour I think is pretty important too. I think that'll help kind of tighten things up, bind the wet ingredients more. The egg is a binder as well, a little more protein. And that's it. And even still, it's pretty thick. It doesn't smell bad, it actually smells pretty good. That oregano and garlic, it looks very strange. But we'll see how many patties we're gonna get out of this. So now we are back. I've got a stainless steel pan here. I'm gonna start heating it up on medium heat. And we're gonna put a decent amount of oil on the bottom, a even layer. So I would say that's 1.5 to 2 tablespoons of oil on the bottom. In the video, they actually use more, almost about 1/4 inch of oil on the bottom. Don't want these to stick. So let this heat, we want it pretty hot so that we get a good sear on the boogers. On the boogers? On the burgers. I believe we call that a Freudian slip. Yep. Okay. Just put a little dab in there and it's definitely hot enough. So let's, I'm using a spoon and here we go. Wow. That's very loose. 1 spoonful, which is probably less than 1/4 of a cup. Flattens out pretty loosely. So we're just gonna fry these gently. And because the mixture is so loose, I don't want to flip them prematurely. I think a good way, just whenever you're making pancakes, whether they're meat or flour, is to look around the edge. You can see this is already starting to set up. Regular pancakes, you'll start to see some bubbles appear, which we are seeing those bubbles. And that's usually a good time to flip. But again, I don't want to flip these too early. But I think this one might be ready. I'm going to use my other turner. So I'm going to use my stainless steel spatula to loosen things because I'm not using a nonstick pan. And then I'm going to use my silicone spatula to flip. Ooh, look at that. It looks more like a pancake. Wow, that's not looking so good. All right, let's try again. Wow. I might add another tablespoon of flour to kind of bind things together a bit more, because when you put it into the pan, it just spreads even more. Look at that. Right, let's give this one a flip. Yeah, they're definitely more pancake-like than what's shown in the Flomo Crafts video. Those ones still kind of look like burgers. But my third one did turn out a little better than the others. Well, I'm gonna keep frying these up and then we'll come back and give these a taste. Can't wait. All right, my lovelies, I'm back with the cooked milk burgers, milk cream burgers, and here they are. They look kind of burgerish, but if you look a little closer, they look a bit like browned pancakes. They're very thin, and I find them very tricky to flip. Most of mine kind of broke in some form, but that's okay. You can probably, once you put it on the bun, it doesn't really matter if they fall apart. But I did get some decent looking ones. This probably is the best one. In Flomo Crafts video, they tear one open and it looks a lot like burger meat. So let's go ahead and do that. So here is a patty. Surface looks kind of like a pancake. Now let's tear it open and see what it looks like inside. It's very juicy, actually, soft. Yeah, and it smells great. I've got minimal toppings, ketchup and mustard, and a little bun here. But first, let's just try it. Let's just try it plain first. I'm gonna try one of these little scrappy bits here and give that a taste. Alrighty, here we go. Itadakimasu. It's not bad. It's a little oily. It has a crisp texture. It doesn't taste particularly meaty, but it doesn't taste like a pancake either. That bite was a scrappy bite. Let's take a bite of this part. Here we go. Okay, now I taste it a little bit more. It does taste a little reminiscent of a meatball because you've got that oregano and garlic in there. It's well seasoned. The texture is a little mushy. It's mushy and soft, not at all chewy as you would expect from a burger or something meaty, but it's not floppy and starchy like a pancake either. It's kind of in between, which isn't surprising. Although there's not a lot of flour in this. This is mostly dairy. Okay, let's put the rest of that patty on that bun, and we'll add some ketchup and some mayo. This is the mayo, mustard. A little leaf of lettuce and some onion would be nice, but we're just doing this pretty basic. Okay, there's the burger. So let's cut this in half and see what it looks like. Huh. Alrighty, let's give this a go. Itadakimasu. The first thing I notice is the texture is not like a burger. There's not this kind of substantial like bite. Although if you have a smash burger, the meat is thin, but you have that really great caramelized meat flavor that comes with the smash burger, which I love. This, you have some crispness that's reminiscent of a smash burger, but you don't have that really great caramelized beefy flavor. Instead, you have more of a meatball flavor because you've got that oregano and garlic and salt in there. It's well seasoned. It definitely has enough salt and pepper and flavoring to it, but it's definitely flavored, not just all about the beef. Having said that, it's not unpleasant. And from this recipe, I would guess that you would get about 12 patties. So 12 small burgers from that recipe. So that's a pretty good way to extend your beef. That was just a half a pound of beef. Granted, we did add an egg. We did add some heavy cream and milk as well. So historically, if you had dairy cows, then that would make sense because you would have plenty of milk and you would have chickens with eggs as well. So historically, in a certain context, I could see how that would be economical. So I'll crunch the numbers, and right here, I'll put the all beef quarter pounder burger price here versus the extended milk burger here. So you can get an idea of the savings and the number of burgers you can get. So if we did 1 full pound, we'd get 24 burgers versus 4. That's a pretty good stretch, if you ask me. Alrighty, my lovelies, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that one. I hope you learned something. Please check out the Hard Times playlist. There's lots of inspirational and very, very inventive, interesting recipes there. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope you learned something. Please share this video with your friends. Follow me on social media. Like this video. Leave me a comment. I will pin my favorite. Check out my website for the printable version of this recipe, and I shall see you in the next video. Toodaloo. Take care. Bye. Bow.